Good morning. Welcome to Helping Hearts Homeschool, where we discuss all things homeschooling, parenting, ministry, and mindset. So today we're going to talk about devotions, family devotions, specifically how to make them work for kids from all age groups, whether you have toddlers all the way up through upper high school kids. So devotions, unfortunately, are one of those things that can just be a checklist. It's just something on the list that we check off to get it done. Or worse, it's something that we convince ourselves we don't have time for. It's not super important. Our kids already go to church. We can kind of make up excuses on our head as to why we can't do them, and they completely fall by the wayside. So, we're going to talk about how to not only make them a priority, but how to make them fun and exciting and something that your kids look forward to every single day versus the dreaded, oh, we've got to go sit at the table so dad can read the Bible and preach to us. Because I've been there. I've been in the family devotions where 7 a.m. every morning, the kids gather around the table. Dad reads a few chapters, preaches to the kids, opens it up for discussion. Nobody asks any questions because they're already bored out of their minds. They may or may not have paid attention to the Bible reading. They definitely tuned dad out when he started preaching, and now they are ready to get on with their day and check it off the box of things that just needed to be done for the day. So we know that God needs to be a priority in our home. But what is not stated a lot of the times is if we don't purposely make him a priority, then it's something that can very easy that can kind of not be consistent and then be gone altogether before we know it. Now, if you're new here, I am Tanya Johnson. I'm the founder of Helping Hearts Homeschool, where we help homeschool moms and ministry leaders navigate the waters of social media. So we believe that social media is just a tool God has given us. It's not good, it's not bad. It honestly depends on how we use it. So we help you navigate social media in a way that, one, glorifies God, but two, also grows your bank account. Today, we're going to discuss the 6 steps to creating a family devotion plan that works for everybody in your family. Now, step 1 is just setting aside a time, deciding when you are going to have your family devotions. Now, I will tell you, and we all know this, the later in the day that something gets scheduled, the easier for it to get pushed off when anything disrupts your schedule, right? And especially if you are a homeschool mom, which a lot of us are that we're speaking with this, it is very easy for things to get pushed off toward the end because our schedule is so jam-packed and so full of fun and exciting things already. So I highly recommend scheduling your devotions first thing in the morning. Now, if you are not a homeschool mom, you may not have as much leeway with this. You would need to get up an extra 30 to 45 minutes early, have planned for your kids to be completely ready to walk out the door before you can sit down, do the devotions, and then head off to school. Because doing those devotions first thing in the morning, not only are you going to be fresh and at your best, as well as your kids, but you're going to set the tone for the entire day. Now, I have done this both ways. I've done them in the morning, I've done them at night. The morning is absolutely the best time to do it if you can be disciplined enough to get up and make sure it gets done. Now, if you're a homeschool mom, you have a little bit more leniency with this just because you're not getting up and rushing out the door. What we like to do is my daughter gets up around 7. She does all of her responsibilities. We get ready for the day. We pack our bags and we head down to the pool, which is where we do school. And so the first thing we do when we get down there is our devotion time. It sets a nice, relaxing tone for reading our Bible and talking with God and doing our gratitude journaling and our praying and that kind of stuff without being a distraction. Now, number 2 is just deciding who will be involved in family devotions. Now, I'm not talking about which kids are involved. That is not an option. Every kid comes to family devotions. Whether they are 2 or they are 20, sitting down at the table as a family and having a worship session together is definitely something that you want to prioritize. Now, that doesn't mean that you may need to have 2 separate devotion times, one for the entire family, and maybe one for an older child who is dealing either with a certain sin that needs a little bit more attention, or maybe just a certain issue like body positivity, bullying, self-worth, abuse, anything that may come along in their life that you need to have an extra little devotion time with them and help them overcome an issue using the Bible. So that is absolutely something that is encouraged and it's an option, but it's not something that you would negate the family devotion time because that kid's already involved in something later on. You want to make sure that they're in both. What we're talking about is mom and dad who's involved in this. Ideally, both parents would sit down and do family devotions. Now, in the world that we live in, where there's work schedules are so hectic, realistically, that may not work. And I'll be honest, with our family, we have not ever done family devotions where we all sit down together. Usually what we have done is my husband does devotions with my daughter at night, and it's kind of like a bedtime story routine that he does, because the first half of our marriage, he worked from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. So he left for work before she even got out of bed. The other half of our marriage, he worked third shift. So he would do devotion time right before she would go to bed, which was a couple hours before he would go to work. Mornings just did not work for him, and that's totally fine. You may find yourself in a similar situation. Now, like I said in the beginning of this video, when you schedule things at night, they don't always happen. So these devotion times were not always 100% consistent. Sometimes they would get pushed off. And that is why it was doubly important for me to do the devotion time in the morning with her to make sure she was getting something every single day. So you can decide what that's going to look like for your family as far as who is going to be involved. Now, number 3 is setting the atmosphere. You want family devotion time to be something that your kids look forward to. Again, not something that they dread. So we have done tea parties where we sit down and have a little tea party breakfast in the morning as we're doing our devotions. We have done a special breakfast or a special beverage. Now, when we lived back in Chicago, it snowed a lot, and we had a huge picture window in our living room. It was so gorgeous. We would set up a card table so we could sit and watch the snow fall and have hot chocolate while we did our devotions in the mornings. My daughter absolutely loved it. So there are lots of ways to make it special without having to spend much money, if not any money at all. I'm not saying you need to make it super extravagant, but make it something that they look forward to. I would say at least once a week, do something a little special while you're doing your devotions. And the rest of the time can be sitting at the table as a family. Again, it doesn't have to be a dog and pony show, but it is something that you want to take that little extra time to put a little extra special touch on it every once in a while to keep them guessing when it's going to happen and keep them excited coming back day after day. Number 4 is making it exciting. Now, we already talked a little bit about this. You don't want this to be a super boring, sit around the Bible, dad reads a couple chapters, preaches to the kids walk away thinking, man, do I have to do this again tomorrow? How long before I can opt out of this? Like, when will I be old enough to not have to do this with the family? You want it to be something that they look forward to. Now, here's how I break it up when it comes to ages. Now, you want to engage your kids and also keep it age appropriate. So if you have toddlers or young kids, you want to read the story out of the Bible, read the passage, but then also read a picture book that goes along with that story. While you're reading, let your kids color, let them play with slime, let them play with Play-Doh, something hands-on that keeps them engaged while also still being able to listen to what's being taught. Now, if you have older elementary to middle school kids, and sometimes even high school kids, depending on the kid. Now, some high school kids would prefer just to sit there and listen. Some would like to sit and color while you're talking. It depends on what kind of learning language they have. But a lot of high school kids actually like what I do with the upper elementary and the middle school kids. And that is let them take notes. We have a freebie for you guys this week that is really cool. It is a devotion notebook. So we've got note sections that they can take notes in. And then we've also got a devotional bingo to where they can sit and color in the words as mom or dad are saying them. And if they get a bingo, maybe they can have a prize. Now, it could be something that we do this during church services. We go to church 3 times a week. My daughter goes to a children's church on Sunday morning and then adult church on Sunday night, and half and half on Wednesday night. Sometimes it's adults, sometimes it's children. So anytime she's in the adult services, we let her do sermon bingo. Now, what we do is if she fills out the sermon notes part as well, if she gets a bingo, she gets a prize. Now, we don't make her take notes, but we do encourage it. And one way that we encourage it is we offer that extra little incentive of if you take notes, then you're eligible for a bingo prize. If you don't take notes, you can still play bingo, absolutely, but you're not eligible for a prize when it comes to the bingo board. And you can do the same thing in your household during devotion time with whatever age group that your kids are. Now, number 5 is change it up. This should be a no-brainer, but think about it. When it comes to things that are very repetitive, it gets boring even for us. So our kids are absolutely the same way when it comes to family devotions. If we're doing the exact same thing every single day, there's never any change up, it gets incredibly boring for them. So consider doing a loop schedule. Now, I have one over on the blog for you that you can check out. I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but I will kind of skim through them. So I have Monday through Saturday laid out. Now, Sunday, we don't do family devotions because we're in church all day long. Glory's also working side by side with us in the ministry in different areas. So we only have a few hours at home. We don't do extra Bible. She's getting tons of Bible that day already. We do Monday through Saturday. So Monday, we typically will read the story out of the Bible. We'll also read the corresponding story in a picture book. And then while we're doing that, she's welcome to color, draw, do something with her hands. Now, we use a book called generations.org. I have it linked over on the blog for you. I absolutely would recommend that Bible curriculum. It is completely phenomenal. And that is something that Tuesday, we're able to recap the lesson, and then we're able to go over some of the vocabulary words from that lesson. And the book has that laid out for us, all the vocabulary words, all the definitions, and a page to do that goes with the story. So that is what we do on Tuesday. Wednesday, we recap, and then we do the couple pages in the book that have to do with like application and lifestyle. There's actually 4 different pages in there. So we do 2 on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday. You know what? Let me back up. Wednesday, we do the life application pages because I lied. It is not 4 pages. It's actually 4 pages total, the vocabulary and the life application. So we do the vocabulary one day, the life application the next day. Thursday, what I love to do, and I'm not super consistent with this, but I am planning on getting more consistent with it. Now that I'm sitting down and making this video, I've gotten a lot of questions on how we do devotions, and it kind of convicted me of, oh, I've slacked in a couple areas. So Thursday, what we love to do is recap the story and then watch a short video about the story. We love to use Superbook. Superbook is an awesome way to be able to watch a video that is clean and is pretty theologically sound with whatever Bible story we're going through. And then we have a themed snack as well. So like Noah and the Ark, we can have some kind of animal crackers. Jonah and the whale, we can have like a packet of Swedish fish. Moses and the parting of the Red Sea, I have a really cool themed snack that we did for junior church that the kids loved. I have that linked over on the blog. And by the way, the blog and the freebie are all the way down into the description box, so you can always access those. Every week we have a corresponding blog and a corresponding freebie to go along with the training as well. And then Friday, we recap the story and we do a craft that is themed along that story. Saturday, we recap the story, we say the memory verse. So in addition to the actual devotional, we're doing the memory verse every single day that goes along with that story. And we're also usually doing some kind of a song that goes along with that story. So all week, we have the same theme. And then we're adding different elements every single day to change it up and keep it fun and exciting for the kids. Now, number 6 is just simply keep it challenging. Our kids, if you are like me and your kid is growing up in church, by the time they're 2nd or 3rd grade, they've heard these stories so often that they could probably tell them to you just as good as you're telling the story to your child. So this can make devotions start seeming silly. It can make devotions seem like something that's just for little kids. What you want to do is make sure that you are layering Bible truth on top of those stories every single year in a new and exciting way to keep it challenging and relevant to your child's age. Now, this is one reason we absolutely love the generations.org curriculum. They do just that. They do the same stories every single year. We're still going through the Bible. The Bible never gets old, but it layers relevant truth on top of those stories that the kids can apply to their life in whatever age group that they're in. Now, here's what I suggest doing by age. And then I'm also going to give you a little tip on how to do this all together when you have all the different age groups in your home at one time. So preschool and kindergarten, I would do the schedule that I have linked on the blog, but I would ditch the vocabulary work, ditch a lot of the writing work, and swap it for themed games, extra crafts, extra hands-on activities, basically anything that you can do that they would like and would be exciting for them. The reason being is, one, you only have 5 to 10 minutes with that age group before the attention span's kind of gone anyways. So you can get away with doing a little bit more monotony stuff. And they won't necessarily notice that it's the same thing every single day. But then you can also have so much fun with little illustrations and hands-on activities at that age. And it's just a really fun, simple process that they look forward to coming to every day, not even realizing how much Bible truth that they're getting. Now, 1st through 5th grade, I would do the exact schedule I have laid up there. I would use generations.org. They only go 1st through 5th grade. And so I think that's just a really good, sound Bible curriculum to use. Middle school, I would use the Awana Trek series, and I have that linked on the blog as well. The Trek series really goes through some age-appropriate, deeper discussion when it comes to the Bible. Now, you can still keep the schedule I have linked, But I would swap out, instead of doing a Bible story, you're doing a Trek chapter every week or a Trek theme. And they have it laid out for you book by book. They've got daily devotions in there. They've got ideas on how to do games, illustrations. Like, they do a very good job putting it together to where it's kind of open and go. And then you can do the rest in your own home. And then high school is when I would get into the apologetic side. Same thing, I would still use the Awana program. They have an awesome apologetics course. I have actually looked at several different apologetics courses, and this is the best one that I have found so far, in my opinion. It is the one we'll use with Glory. It is just, it's very first class. I've taught it a few times to a few groups of students, and it always works out wonderfully. Now, if you're like, Tanya, I don't really know what apologetics is, don't let the word scare you. It basically is, why do we believe what we believe? We spend our child's whole childhood telling them what we believe, showing them from the Bible, giving them all of that foundation. And then middle school is when you really start helping them develop that independent walk with God. And then high school is when we let them question everything. We want their belief, we want our belief to become their belief. So they have to question it. They have to start believing it for themselves. It's no longer just what mom and dad believe and what mom and dad say. Like, why do I believe that the Bible is true? Why do I believe that God is real? Like, why do I believe X, Y, Z? And that's really what apologetics does. It takes you through the whole questioning and doing it in a very controlled way, to where your child has that freedom to ask those questions in your home with your direction, instead of getting out into the world and asking those questions to somebody who may be trying to get them off course, instead of helping them solidify their faith. Now, here's where it might be necessary to have more than one devotion time. If you have a family that has little kids, middle-aged kids, and high school kids, I would still suggest sitting down and doing those family devotions together and still following that schedule, because your little kids don't need to be cheated out of all the fun just because you have older kids. Now, give your older kids a choice. Do they want to sit and do the craft with the family, or would they rather help a sibling do the craft instead? Let them help prepare the stuff for the week. Let them have a voice. And okay, what kind of snack do you think would be good with this kind of lesson? Let them kind of take on the assistant teacher role. One, it helps them still be involved with family devotions, even if they might think it's a little juvenile for them. But two, it helps prepare them for their future. Maybe God's going to have them teach a Sunday school class or a junior church, or maybe they're going to be parents of their own and need to learn how to put some of this stuff together. So it just helps them stay involved without thinking it's just one more like babyish thing that they have to do. And then have that second devotion with just your older kids once or twice a week, and go over either Trek or Journey, whichever one you're in. Or you might have to do this 2 separate times if you've got 2, older age groups. You really get to decide this. But the goal is not to hold their hand the entire way through high school. The goal is to have 1 or 2 sessions a week with your older ones using that guided book, and then give them assignments or projects to do on their own throughout the week before you meet up the next time. Your goal is to get them independently reading their Bible, independently having prayer and devotion time. Now, yes, still be involved, be there to ask questions, guide them through it. But when they go off to college and when they get married and have kids, mom's not going to be there saying, hey, let's sit down and have devotions. They need to already have that habit instilled. And this is a great way to go ahead and jumpstart that. Now, just to go ahead and wrap this all up, because I feel like this is a lot of information. Like I said, go to the blog, make sure that you've got it bookmarked. You can always go back to it for reference. If you're thinking, man, Tanya, this sounds like a lot of work, it is. God lent us these kids to give them a foundation to go out into the world and do something for him. Our main priority is to make sure they have a consistent relationship with Jesus outside of just what the church teaches. The church is not their parent. We are their parent. We are the ones that get to sit and really mentor them into adulthood. So yes, it is a lot of work. Yes, it is time consuming, but think about it. This is more important than sports. This is more important than family game time. This is more important than time with friends. This is more important than making the all-A honor roll. That might be a goal that you have for your child. And that's not a bad goal, but all of those things should take a back seat to daily devotions. If you don't have time for daily devotions, but your kids are on sports teams, where's your priority? So that's something that you're going to have to look at your schedule and ask yourself, okay, What am I prioritizing over my child having a relationship with God? And that is something that we also had to do. So this is not me pointing a finger at anybody. This is something multiple times we've let it take a back seat. And I've had to sit down and say, okay, what am I prioritizing over her walk with God? And we immediately have to take that out of our schedule, tweak a few things, and make sure that God is front and center all the time. So make sure you go over to the blog and you get that freebie that we have for you. I think it is something that your kids are really going to like. And again, you can use it for devotions. You can also use it in church. It's a double-edged sword, so to speak. There's a really cool sermon notebook page. There's also an actual sermon notebook bingo in there. So go ahead and go grab that. There's a bunch of other freebies and resources listed on the blog. And until next time, this is Tanya Johnson with Helping Hearts Homeschool, and I will see y'all next week.